It is that time of the year now. I'm going to talk about H-1B quota process today. The H-1B process has entered a period of increased uncertainty with major changes being discussed and implemented under the Trump administration. But the H-1B season is now here. If you don't know me, my name is Remzi Kulen. I'm an immigration attorney with more than 20 years of experience helping individuals and employers navigate the US immigration system. In this video, I'll walk you through the most important developments affecting the H-1B program, what has changed this year, and why we strongly recommend completing H-1B registration even with all the uncertainty. Let's start with the basics. As in prior years, the H-1B process begins in March with the quota registration, also known as the pre-registration phase. Let me be very clear. Without completing registration, you have no chance of being considered in this year's H-1B cap. Between now and the start of the H-1B season, or even after registration opens, there may be new developments and rule changes in the H-1B field. Despite this uncertainty, the best course of action is still to complete the H-1B registration. If you have a company willing to sponsor you for your H-1B, make sure you watch this video carefully before registering. If there's a company willing to sponsor you for your H-1B visa, or if you would like to set up a company and sponsor yourself for an H-1B visa, make sure you watch this video carefully before registering. So how does the H-1B registration work? There is one very important detail to understand. The registration is completed by the employer and not by the employee. This is how it's done. First, the employer creates an account in the USCIS system. If the account has already been created before, you do not have to create a new account. For this year's registration, the basic information about the employee is entered and the H-1B registration is submitted. However, with the new developments, there will be more information required to submit the H-1B registration, including the wage levels, which I will come in a second. So during the registration stage, no labor condition application is filed, no full H-1B petition is submitted, no detailed documentation is required about the position. In other words, the registration phase is a simple, fast, and low-cost pre-registration step. Only if your registration is selected from the quota does the employer prepare and file the full H-1B petition, and they will have 90 days to complete that. That is why, if you have an employer willing to sponsor you, it is critical not to miss the registration window. So what changed in the H-1B program recently? The most important change is the $100,000 additional fee for new H-1B applications. There is a very important detail here. This fee applies only to the new H-1B petitions and only if you're applying to the consulate for the first time to get your H-1B visa stamped in your passport. So that means this fee applies to the workers who are outside of the United States and who are obtaining their H-1B visas for the first time. That also means change of status petitions filed within the US are not affected. So therefore, if you are here in the US on an F1 status, for example, and if you're changing status to H-1B, you will not be subject to the $100,000 fee. Additionally, and maybe more importantly, this $100,000 fee is not paid at the registration stage. It is paid when the full H-1B petition is filed. So you're not responsible for the $100,000 fee during the registration period. That is why it is important to register. If you are selected in the lottery and if your case will be processed through a US consulate, then the $100,000 fee would apply. The second important change is prioritizing higher wage H-1B petitions. The move toward prioritizing higher wage H-1B registrations have been coming for a long time. Rather than using a fully random lottery system like the years before this, the Department of Homeland Security has finalized a wage-based weighted selection process that favors higher paying positions. What does this mean? Under the new system, H-1B registrations are selected based on the wage level offered for the position rather than being treated equally in a purely random lottery. Registrations offering higher wages receive greater weighting and increased odds of selection, while lower wage positions have reduced chances. The government has stated that the purpose of the system is to ensure that the H-1B program is primarily used for highly skilled, specialized, and well-paid positions consistent with the program's statutory intent. I can make a lot of arguments here as to what the statutory intent was, certainly not selecting the best paid employees, but this is how DHS interprets the regulations, interprets the statutes as of now. So specifically, the weighted selection process is based on the Department of Labor's Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics wage levels. Level 4 wages receive the highest weighting and generally correspond to the senior or advanced roles such as principal engineers, senior managers, lead architects, or highly specialized technical experts. Level 3 wages receive increased weighting and typically apply to highly experienced professionals such as senior software engineers, lead data scientists, senior financial analysts, or engineering managers. Level 2 wages receive moderate weighting and generally reflect professional with meaningful experience who perform duties independently, such as software engineers, data analysts, management consultants, accountants, or network engineers. Level 1 wages receive the lowest weighting and typically correspond to entry-level or junior positions, such as recent graduates, associate-level analysts, junior engineers, or roles involving close supervision and limited responsibility. You may be asking, well, who is deciding on this salary? It will be the employer who is deciding on the salary. Depending on your experience and education level and the responsibilities of the job offered, the employer has to choose one of the 4 wage levels indicated in the Department of Labor's wage system. Of course, it is important that the wage level selected corresponds with the responsibilities of the job duties and also qualifications of the applicant. So why is this year more uncertain as far as the H-1B is concerned? This year's H-1B cap season could be more complicated and unpredictable than usual. Up until the registration opens and even after, it is possible that we will see new policy announcements, court decisions, USCIS rule changes. Some rules may change, be delayed, or even be suspended. As always, we will continue sharing updates with you through our YouTube and Instagram accounts. So what should you do this year? Despite all of this uncertainty, I still recommend completing the H-1B registration this year. First, the $100,000 fee may discourage some employers from registering, which could reduce the total number of registrations and potentially increase selection chances. Secondly, the fee is not paid at the registration stage, but only if a full H-1B petition is filed. That means there is no real risk in registering now. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the $100,000 fee rule could be challenged in court, modified by USCIS. For these reasons, if you have the opportunity to register for H-1B, you should do it. I also want to mention about a change in the H-1B application since last year. This is not a change under Trump administration, but the year before, that you can now apply for an H-1B from your own company. It is a very important step in allowing entrepreneurs to work in the United States. So if you have a company and if you would like to apply for an H-1B for yourself, as long as it's a specialty occupation, it's a professional position, this is now allowed. We actually did a few last year and we got the approvals. The only catch is these H-1B applications will be approved for 18 months. So if you don't have a sponsor, if you want to sponsor yourself for the H-1B through your own company, you could definitely do it this year. So in closing, without registration, you have no chances in the H-1B cap. In a time of uncertainty, staying completely out of the process is the biggest risk. Don't lose your chance. Complete your H-1B registration. We are closely monitoring developments, and if anything changes, we will continue to keep you informed. I'll see you in the next video. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments section below, and I will respond to them as soon as I can. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video.